7:13. It's 5 right now at 7:14. But right now, we want to help you deal with media violence and your children. Nicole Johnston is the coordinator Peel Committee Against Woman Abuse and a member of the Peel Media Violence Awareness Week. Good morning. I'm going to say some shocking things here, and maybe it's a good way to make parents realize that there could be a problem in homes. Children witnessed 200,000 violent acts on television before the age of 16. Saturday morning cartoons alone, children are exposed to 25.2 violent acts, and that's in each hour of a Saturday morning cartoon. This is unbelievable. Now, we can't blame the media, and I consider myself to be a part of the media, but it's a change in attitude, societal attitude, and we're going to do something to change that today. First of all, how does it affect a child in later life to be exposed to that much violence?
Okay. Well, studies have shown that witnessing this amount of violent acts in different forms of media, such as television, video games, the internet, movies and films, so there's linkages to aggressive behavior, which stems into adulthood, an increased tolerance for violence, and an insensitivity to pain and suffering of those around us.
What are we talking about when we're talking about violent acts?
That's something that's been an ongoing debate, actually, in terms of defining violence, because really that's something that each individual would need to define as what is considered violence, because it looks different for each person.
But it could be as simple as just one character clobbering the other over the head with something, you know.
It could be,
which we might think is funny, but it's a violent act.
Right.
Yeah.
And it could be also an infliction of pain on property, not just on individuals or groups.
Has the increase in violent acts on television just been sneaking up on us? I mean, have we really been aware that this has changed? If we were to compare a television show today with one from 20 years ago, would we see a noticeable difference in attitudes and in desensitization about violent acts? Would we really see a big difference?
I don't know if there's definitely been an increase, but there's definitely an increase in terms of there's more forms of violence for children that are exposed to, and children are using the internet a lot more now and playing video games, and there's definitely studies that show that there's violence in those different forms.
All right, I know parents want to do something about it right now, so what are some of the bits of advice that you could offer today that will help parents monitor what their children are watching and help their children handle what they're seeing?
Right. I think number one, parents should be aware of what their children are watching and how much time they're spending watching television or playing video games. A lot of times we use TV as a babysitter for our children, and it's sort of an easier way to deal with things, and I think when we do that, parents aren't always aware of what their children are watching. So be aware of what they're watching, sit down and watch TV with them, see what they're watching, talk about what they're seeing. If they're exposed to violence, talk about how to dialogue with them about what they're seeing and how they're feeling about that.
How do you explain to a child the difference between seeing a cartoon character hit another over the head and what you might see coming out of Kosovo, for instance, or any kind of natural disaster that causes pain and death and suffering, and we see it on the news?
Right. Well, definitely, actually, studies have shown that children seeing the news can actually be more traumatic than watching cartoons, because in cartoons it seems like they're not real figures, but in reality, being exposed to that over a long period of time can still have an impact on children. So it may seem that it's not something that we need to talk about with our children as much as talking about what's happening in Kosovo. However, it is still very important to talk about, because although they're not real figures, the images and the messages that are being sent about the violence that's being shown are still just as serious.
We want our children to be raised with a sense of reality, what is real and what is really happening. We don't want to keep them from anything that's going to help their brains expand and their horizons expand. So where do you draw the line?
I think just explaining to them in terms of the different issues that even though it's having a conversation with them about why violence is happening, even though they're not real life figures, having a conversation with them why that's happening, and is there other peaceful solutions to what you're seeing, is to resolving conflict. And that's something that really parents need to talk about, is what are some other alternatives to resolving conflict besides acting out violently.
Sounds like this is a 2 or 3 step process. You and your partner, if that's the kind of family you're in, or the grandparents, caregivers, talk about it first and decide what your plan of attack will be, and then you spend time with your children and get to know what it is that they're watching and how they feel about it, and the rest will follow. You have a free forum going on Thursday night at the Burnham Thorpe Community Center at 7 o'clock. If parents are interested, it will give you more valuable advice on how to deal with media violence. And I thank you, Nicole, for being here this morning. Terrific. It is 7:19, we're heading into the City Pulse newsroom to check in with Kevin Frankish.